Prostitutes Cemetery, Voices from the Abandoned Rooms, Kanchanaburi. Have you ever heard of the Prostitutes Cemetery, a place in Kanchanaburi province where, even after decades have passed, the cries of women still echo through the darkness of that abandoned building? Let's go back to the 1970s to 1980s. In Tha Muang district, Kanchanaburi, there once stood an old building tucked away in a small alley known as Tha Soi 9. Locals called it Brothel 35. It was an illegal sex establishment, secretly run by an out-of-town investor. Many young women from different provinces had been deceived into coming there, promised good jobs and high pay. But when they arrived, they realized they were trapped inside the building. Inside were narrow rooms lined up in rows. Each had a small barred door, just enough for one person to enter. The women were forced to serve dozens of clients a day. They had no right to leave, no chance to escape. And it was said, those who resisted were beaten, locked away, or punished. Some died in their rooms, nameless, forgotten. By the late 1980s, when the law began to tighten, local police raided many hidden brothels, including Brothel 35. What they found was never officially recorded, but villagers nearby claimed that several female corpses were buried behind the building, some with their hands tied, mouths gagged, or left hidden in storerooms. Since then, the building was permanently shut down, abandoned, and left untouched. No one dared go near it again, and that was the beginning of the name the Prostitutes Cemetery. Not long after it was deserted, locals began whispering strange stories. At night, those driving past the area said they could hear faint sobbing, the sound of women crying from inside the building. Some swore they'd seen a woman in white with long hair walking near the entrance. Others saw multiple shadows standing on the second floor balcony, though no one had lived there for years. A few people who dared explore found old liquor bottles, rusty beds, torn women's clothes, and, most disturbingly, a small, locked room that looked like a cage. On the wall were long scratch marks and faint words written in red. "Help me." Some ghost hunters who filmed inside reported hearing a woman's sobs even when the building was empty. Cameras malfunctioned, batteries drained instantly, and EMF detectors spiked violently, forcing them to flee in tears. Today, the Prostitutes Cemetery still stands, overgrown with weeds, trees swallowing the entrance. The crumbling walls barely hold together. Yet on nights with no moon, locals still claim they hear it. The cries of women, the clang of metal doors, and soft voices whispering someone's name from the darkness. Some believe their souls were never properly laid to rest, that their bodies still lie buried beneath the floor, and until someone brings them justice, those voices will never fade. Tonight, I'll tell you the true story of a group of teenagers who wanted to prove whether ghosts were real. They decided to test their courage at one of Thailand's most haunted sites, the Prostitutes Cemetery, Kanchanaburi province. This happened about 3 years ago. It was the height of the ghost hunting YouTube craze, when groups of teens went to haunted places hoping for viral fame. 4 friends, Boss, Game, Palm, and 4, ran a small YouTube channel, mostly filming in abandoned schools and buildings for fun. One night, while drinking together, Game, the talkative one, said, "Hey, you guys know the Prostitutes Cemetery in Kanchanaburi? They say it's insanely haunted." Boss laughed. "Don't tell me you actually want to go there." Game smirked. "I'm serious, man. If we get footage, that video will blow up." The table went silent until 4 whispered, "But someone disappeared there once. I saw a clip." They heard a woman crying in the building still. Boss grinned and said, "I don't believe in ghosts. If you're scared, stay home. Game and I will go." In the end, Palm and 4 joined. They didn't want to let their friends go alone. They agreed to go that Saturday night. It was around 11 p.m. when Boss's pickup truck turned into Tha Muang 9. The narrow road was deserted, lined with dark trees and dim streetlights. The GoPro was recording inside the car. Game spoke softly. "I think this is it. Look, no houses around." Once they stepped out, Palm muttered, "God, it stinks, like something rotting." Before them stood a 2-story gray building. The walls were cracked, paint peeling, iron doors rusted. A small, tilted wooden sign hung in front, painted in red, "Do not enter." Of course, they entered. Inside was silence, only wind whistling through broken windows. Their headlamps revealed rusty beds, torn pillows, and, shockingly, iron chains attached to the bed frames. On the walls, long fingernail scratches ran deep into the plaster. Boss pointed the camera. "We're in the first room. Looks like people really were locked up here." The mic picked up a faint breathing sound near them. Game chuckled. Probably wind noise. But 4 froze, her eyes wide. Did someone just call my name?" No one answered. Boss laughed nervously. "You're imagining things." But later, when they reviewed the footage, the voice was real. A soft whisper. 4. The building had 2 floors. They climbed the creaking metal stairs to a locked, red-painted door. Game pried it open. It screeched loudly. Inside were old liquor bottles, women's sandals, and torn fabric. Maybe old sarongs. On one wall, faded writing read, "Don't let him do it again." Boss whispered, "Creepy as hell. Let's go." But 4 stood still, staring at the wall. She murmured, "Someone died here." Everyone turned toward her. Palm asked, "What are you talking about?" Before she could answer, all their lights went out at once. In the darkness came a soft laugh, a mum's voice. "Turn on the light," Game shouted. When the GoPro's flash flicked back on, no one was there. They ran downstairs. But as Game passed a broken mirror, he saw something behind him. A woman with long hair, wearing a thin white bathrobe, smiling. He turned around. Nothing. His heart pounded so hard, the mic picked it up. At the exit, Boss gasped, "Let's get out." Now, but Game refused. "There's one last room, behind the building." Palm and Four protested, but followed reluctantly. That final room changed everything. It was at the back of the building, a white cloth covering something in the middle. The smell of decay was unbearable, thick and sour. Boss pulled the cloth away. Underneath was an old metal bed, chains bolted to all four corners. On the mattress, dark stains of dried blood. Four burst into tears. "Stop! I can't do this." But Game kept filming, saying into the camera, "We found a bed that might have been used to lock the women up." Suddenly, the camera shook violently. Though no one touched it, dozens of whispering voices filled the air. "Leave! Don't film!" Their lights went out again. Chains clattered. Clang! And footsteps dragged closer from the far end of the hall. The last frame recorded before the camera fell showed Game's legs as he ran. Then, static. They all escaped the building, except Game. They shouted for him for over 30 minutes. No answer. At dawn, police and rescue teams searched the entire building. Game was never found. Only the GoPro remained. Its final clip lasted 32 seconds. The video showed Game filming himself, tears in his eyes. He whispered, "She's behind me." Then the screen shook and went black. After that night, their YouTube channel shut down. Palm and Four suffered breakdowns, repeating the same words. I can still hear her voice, the same voice captured in the recording, whispering, "Don't film, don't take it away." Police received the footage, but when they reopened it, the file had vanished from the drive. 2 years later, Boss, the only one still mentally stable, returned to the building to leave flowers for his missing friend. When he stepped into that same room, the old GoPro was lying on the bed. Inside, there were no videos of Game. Only a new clip had appeared, footage of the same room and a woman's voice saying softly, "Thank you for coming back." Everyone, this is a real place. People still report seeing flickering lights there, as if someone still walks those rooms. The Prostitutes Cemetery isn't just a haunted site. It's a reminder that some human suffering never fades. Even when the body decays, the screams remain forever. Every abandoned place has a past, but this one, it isn't just forgotten. It's filled with pain that was real. So if you ever drive through Tha Lo, keep your eyes straight ahead. because you never know who might be watching you from the second floor balcony.